Hi guys, well today we're going to be checking out the GIGABYTE RTX 3060 Eagle. Now the Eagle is a fairly new product line for GIGABYTE and it can be regarded really as an entry-level option. And so compared to the gaming OC, the 3060 gaming OC that we checked out just last week, this card here, it's got a few cutbacks and it's really designed for those that are wanting to save a bit of cash. RTX 3060 Eagle comes in two flavors. There is a version which operates at the reference frequencies and there is another version which offers a factory overclock. We're going to be checking out that non-OC edition. This card is more of a compact design and it comes in with a double fan cooler which should hopefully still keep that GPU nice and cool. And so this is a basic card and as such it's going to be pretty much at the Msrp or somewhere pretty close to it. So it's $399 in the UK, $329 in the US, and then $800 in Australia. I don't want to keep harping on about the stock and the pricing situation, but those figures are going to be dependent on both of those things. And so use the price just as a guide for the moment. And so later in our video, we're going to be seeing if this Eagle here can be kind of compared to the gaming OC, both in terms of the gameplay and also the thermals. It'll be interesting to see how they shape up. So stick around to check that out. Before we begin, this video is brought to you by ASRock and the new B560 Steel Legend. This new board really supports both 10th and 11th gen Intel processors, and along with a bunch of useful features, it comes in with Dragon 2.5 gig LAN, which is a step up in terms of network performance from conventional Ethernet, which usually only offers 1 gig. PCI Express 4 is also available, covering the GPU slots, as well as providing super fast M.2 storage support. The ASRock B560 Steel Legend is an interesting board which adopts a striking design. For more details on it, please check out that link in the description. Okay, so here is the 3060 Eagle. Now as we mentioned, this card is aimed at those wanting to keep costs down, and this is therefore a low cost version of the 3060. And I think this is pretty clear from the physical appearance, although it still does hold some appeal. And so the shroud is plastic, it keeps things pretty neutral in terms of the colour scheme, which is a wise move as it blends in with other components with ease. Unlike the gaming OC that we've already looked at, this card comes in with just 2 cooling fans and a smaller single piece heatsink. It'll be interesting to see how it matches up to what we've already encountered with that gaming OC, and of course later in the video I'm going to pull this cooler off the card for a closer look at the details. And so the overall design of this card is pretty subtle, and even with the RGB lighting we just have a thin band which is almost insignificant, could have been left out. That is of course customizable and can even be switched off using the RGB Fusion software. Now this is quite a small graphics card and will therefore be a good choice if you have some limitations in terms of your computer case. And so the actual dimensions are as follows. The length is around 240mm, for the width it is around 110, and then the height is 40mm. Now there is a factory overclocked version of Eagle, but we have the standard version which is simply at the reference settings. And so the GPU clock boost is at 1777 and the memory sits at the frequency of 15 gigabits. There is 12 gig of that GDDR6 with the 192-bit bus. This card uses the PCI Express 4 standard, comes in with 3584 CUDA cores, has the DirectX 12 Ultimate support along with Vulkan 1.2 and OpenGL 4.6. Now in terms of the rear I/O panel, we're pleased to see that this card is a double slotter, both in terms of the case and the PCI Express lanes. On the back panel we have 2 DisplayPort 1.4s, those can give you the 8K at 60, and we also have 2 HDMI 2.1 ports. That new standard there gives us the 4K at 120 and 8K at 60. And again, just like the gaming OC, it's good to see that we have more than one HDMI, and those ports will be more than adequate for most users. Of the new Nvidia GPUs, the 3060 is less demanding in regards to the power requirements, and as such you only need a 550 watt power supply, and the requirements from that power supply is an 8-pin connection. There is an LED indicator to let you know if it isn't properly connected or if there are any issues. Turning to the back of the card, we have a backplate, but it isn't the usual metal backplate. Instead, GIGABYTE have downgraded this to plastic. However, it still serves a purpose and it protects that PCB. The choice of typography on this cover is a bit questionable. The size and placement seems a bit strange. The only ventilation on this backplate is at the tail end of the card, which allows for additional airflow for those cooling fans. So we've removed the cooler off this Eagle card and we're now going to take a close look at each part of it. And so this is GIGABYTE's WindForce 2X, which uses twin fans, which are both 100mm. These fans will spin in the opposite direction to reduce turbulence and increase airflow. Eagle uses 3D Active Tech, which is Gigabyte's in-house 0 decibel feature, so those fans will stop spinning under a specific temperature. Underneath those fans we have a one-piece heatsink, which has 4 copper heat pipes that have direct contact with the GPU itself, and that cooler also supplies cooling for the VRAM. So we actually get an extra heat pipe compared to the Windforce 3X on the gaming OC. Towards the end of the video we're going to see how this card does in terms of that cooling. So without the cooler attached, we can also get a nice overview of the board itself. You'll see that we've left the thermal pads on the VRAM, as removing them proved tricky and we didn't want to spoil them. And just like other Gigabyte 3060s, this one here arrives with an 8-phase design. It makes use of ultra durable certified chokes and caps right across the board for improved performance. And the beating heart in our 3060 is the GA106 GPU, which is based on Ampere architecture. Based on the spec of the GPU, the CUDA cores, and the memory configuration, this card focuses mainly on 1080p. I'm going to check out the performance now in the remaining section of our video. And so the plan is to put this 3060 Eagle up against the 3060 Gaming OC, which we tested just last week, with the idea of seeing if there are any major differences in terms of gameplay performance and thermals. And as always guys, we're not going to chat about the graphs, that'd be pretty boring. Instead, we're going to show you actual side-by-side performance. And for this, we're going to go with 1080p and the maximum detail preset in each game. Ray tracing will be switched on for Battlefield, and then for Cyberpunk, we're going to use ray tracing and DLSS. We'll be using the latest driver supplied by Nvidia, and we're going to use a game capture card to reduce any frame rate interference. We'll also have GPUs that are running in the background to pick up on the max temperatures. The result for that is going to come at the end. Okay, now if we just come and have a last game, let's see the max temperature result. And there we have it. Okay, well that is the Gigabyte RTX 3060 Eagle. And when you put Eagle up against the gaming OC here that we've got, there is actually very little difference in terms of performance. You could probably classify it as marginal. However, when we consider thermals, that is a different story, a different matter altogether. The difference really is going to be around 10 degrees, with this Eagle here kind of showing a bit of weakness and falling behind. And so although this card is much cheaper, it has that noticeable build quality cutback with things like the plastic back panel, it is still going to give you similar type of performance in-game as a more expensive model. If you're comfortable with overclocking the card yourself, you can even shift the non-OC version up to the same speeds as the OC version of Eagle with ease. We even managed to nudge the frequencies beyond Eagle OC without too much hassle, and there is a surprising amount of flexibility there. And so this is a cheap and cheerful version of the 3060, and if you don't mind a few sacrifices, then it is definitely worth considering. Do you have your eye on a new GPU? Are you lining yourself up for a 3060 Eagle like this here? Let's start some discussion in the comment section below. So that's it for me today, guys. I appreciate your support on the channel in whatever way you can. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.